you know, he loved a captive audience. How do I sum up 84 years in just 4 pages? Words that come to mind when I think of our dad. Intelligent, talented, naturalist, creative, resourceful, successful, kind, generous, supportive, volunteer, teacher, mentor, role model. But most of you in this room know he could also be stubborn, cantankerous, and quick-tempered. Dad was a loving father, and we had a very happy childhood. He considered himself very fortunate to have such a beautiful wife and 3 wonderful children. His words, not mine. Dad enjoyed reading all of his life and was knowledgeable on history, geography, mathematics, politics. He read a complete set of encyclopedias from A to Z, not once, but twice. Susan learned from a very early age that Dad was very literate. She would ask him to spell a word, and if he could not spell it, he would pay her 25 cents. Susan combed the dictionary for a few months, finding difficult words, but she never made even 1/4. However, her vocabulary improved immensely. That's the teacher in Dad. When we were young, Dad always gave us rides when he got home from work, like airplane rides and the washing machine rides. My sisters and I really had it all. He took us camping and canoeing, and even though we always made noise on purpose to scare the fish away, Dad would still take us fishing again. He knew we enjoyed our father-daughter time. And the fact that he threw us a Henry chocolate bar every hour or so was an added bonus. Plus, he would make us slabs over the fire, and as we always loved those thinly sliced potatoes. Dad encouraged us to ask questions to figure out how something works. Like the time Susan asked him how to put on snow tires. Dad told her where the tools were and let her figure it out on her own. Dad liked stuff. He saved everything just in case it might come in handy someday. He also loved cool stuff, like the battery-operated talking parrot. He was an ultimate consumer. Good thing he never caught on to eBay or Amazon, or there would have been even more stuff for us to sort. In winter, we went cross-country skiing, stopping to make some hot chocolate and enjoy a few treats. Walking in the woods was always fun and educational. Dad was like a walking Google search engine. He always included our friends in all of our activities. Dad always supported us in all of our schooling. He would check to make sure we did our homework, organized fundraisers, and made hundreds of bags of popcorn and jugs of homemade root beer. Both parents attended all of our school performances with a tape recorder and a camera without earplugs. If we did well in school, he would put some change in our pencil case after parent-teacher night. Perhaps my sisters didn't know about this. Brenda recalls Dad always being supportive and encouraging her to persevere through her university years. He also cheerfully made many trips to Acadia University with his Nissan 4x4 truck, moving her in and out of residences and apartments. Dad was a carbon copy of Red Green. When he visited us in Ontario, he liked to help with household jobs. Armed with duct tape in one hand and a hammer in the other, Dad was ready to work. He was a great help many times at our first home, until one day, when everyone was out, he decided to organize our basement workshop. That evening, we discovered several holes in the wall, to which Dad responded, I'm a hang-it-up kind of guy. Needless to say, for future visits, the hammer was always hidden. I still have trouble finding it. Dad's musical talent was appreciated by all who knew him. He was a great accordion and piano player. He could read music and play by ear. It's not news. He also played several instruments such as the harmonica, ukulele, and the fiddle, and was a longtime member of the Sussex Avenue Fiddlers. He loved the social aspects of making music at potlucks, birthdays, and kitchen parties. He also enjoyed participating in Masonic Lodge and often was providing music on many occasions. While at these events, Dad took many, many pictures and got doubles or triples to share. Dad loved trains. He always wore his train hat. It's probably over there somewhere. Yeah. When going out, and several people would ask him if he worked with trains. In later years, he enjoyed going to the CN pensioners' meetings and events. When his grandchildren were young, he loved playing bear, just like he did with us. He would get on the floor, pretend he was sleeping, snoring heavily, until one of them would go up to him or poke him. Then he would make a loud, fierce sound and move quickly, scaring the grandchild away, running and crying. Yet they would come back again and again, as they loved this game. The grandchildren never seemed to learn not to poke the bear, but his daughters and the nursing home staff know not to poke the bear, as he hated being woken up. Dad was very proud of his grandchildren. Dan will now share memories from the grandchildren.
Hi everyone. I'll just be sharing my memories as well as all the other cousins that we wrote to. Sorry? Anyway. My favorite memory of Grandpie occurred on our trip to Scotland when I was around 15. We found out the cost of a Loch Lomond boat trip, and I knew it was too much, but he smiled and said, "Well, Danny, if you want to go on it, you can go ahead. I'll be sitting right here when you come back." Well, there's no way I'm going anywhere without him, so I stayed back, and we walked on the banks, through the woods, and took in the views. We took pictures, of course, and we were both happy with that. With all the tight timelines, it was actually nice to be out in the Scottish countryside with my grandfather on a summer's afternoon. My brother Samuel, he remembers going out to eat with Grandpie. He would always talk about giving to others. Grandpie was the most generous and strong-willed person that Samuel knew. Grandpie encouraged Samuel to learn new things, such as singing, guitar, and piano lessons. As much as Samuel wishes Grandpie could come back to us, Grandpie will forever be remembered as the glue that kept us together. Samuel didn't just lose a grandfather, he lost a friend too. My sister Margaret. Margaret's favorite memories are when he took her shooting and fishing. She still remembers what he told her when we were practicing our aim on chocolate bars. "Margaret, you need to learn how to shoot just in case you have a cheating husband." The entire time they were driving or walking in the forest, he would tell her the history of where they were, and he knew everyone around every corner. He would pull into a driveway of an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere, only to know the person living there, and could chat with them for hours. My cousin Andrew was with me. Andrew's fondest memory was of his first time fishing. He had a shiny fishing rod that was way too big for him, so the line kept getting stuck in trees. Andrew was getting frustrated when Grandpie said, "Andrew, I'll fix this. Just be patient." In true Grandpie fashion, he made him a new, shorter fishing rod by breaking a small branch off a nearby tree. Moments later, Andrew was reeling in his first trout. But then yet, that day, it felt like he caught 1,000 fish. However, his parents told him that it was really 4 or 5 fish. Nevertheless, it was a great day that he'll never forget. Grandpie taught Andrew how to play crib. Recently, I had a game, and Grandpie won again. My other cousin Luke, was asked at school to write an assignment about who his favorite teacher was, he chose Grandpie. He taught him everything. He taught him about everything Luke liked, such as how to bait a fish hook, how to clean and shoot a gun, explore, and enjoy the outdoors. He was the only other person in his family who was into this kind of thing, the kind of thing that stuff his Luke would be into. Like four-wheeling, hunting, fishing, hiking, building things, and fixing anything he get his hands on. Luke also remembers target practice with Grandpie. Luke will never forget the smile on Grandpie's face when Luke would put one right on the target, or the boom sound, followed by the little laugh he would make after a good shot as well. Once there were chocolate bars to shoot, Grandpa would always pull out a few more that he had in his pockets so they could have a little snack. Cousin Matthew remembers being in Grant's camp at the back of Grandpie's garage. Grandpie asked him and his twin brother Peter to light a fire. They had difficulties lighting the fat wood, so Grandpie grabbed a spray bottle and doused the wood, bringing tremendously high flames that are equipped. So Matthew and Peter were astounded until they learned that a spray bottle was actually full of kerosene. Matthew also remembers the fun he had when Grandpie took him fishing, as he learned how to cast and reel in a fish. And lastly, my cousin Peter loved it when Grandpie taught him and his brother how to tie flies in Grant's camp. These flies came in handy whenever they would go fishing. Peter also fondly remembers many Halloweens when Grandpie visited Ontario and found unique pumpkins. Grandpie named all his pumpkins Marvin. And to this day, every pumpkin we see, we think of Grandpie.
Before I close with the message from Dad, our family would like to thank all that cared for our father so well. Dad told us on several occasions how well he was looked after at Lakeview Manor. We appreciate and are grateful for your care and compassion. Dad enjoyed pastoral visits from Ministers Steve, Liz, and Ron. We thank you for your companionship for our dad. We would like to thank Jean Pitts for putting together such a wonderful slideshow. We appreciate her time and talents. Thanks to the musicians for the beautiful music, as Dad wanted lots of music. Thanks to Kurt and the staff for honoring Dad's wishes and for organizing this service as it gives comfort to our family. Thanks to everyone for attending this afternoon, especially those who drove far distances to be here, as we appreciate your support to our family as we grieve. But most of all, thank you for all But most of all, thank you for all the ways you enriched our father's life. He will live on in all of us. Dad wanted us to say in this speech that he tried, he had no regrets, and for us to never give up. We already miss you, Dad. Thanks for enriching our lives as we have hundreds of great memories to cherish. Don't worry, Dad. We will look after Mom. You will live forever in our hearts. Be at peace and have a restful sleep. Dad, we will let you have the last word, as usual. Here are a few of Dad's quotes. When we cooked a new recipe, he would often say, "This is surprisingly good." Don't worry and don't hurry. Wipe the slate clean every night. No worries. All aboard. Let's get this train moving. We're off like a herd of turtles.
Thank you, Dan and Barbara. You did your grandfather and your father well.
from the 121st Psalm. And the psalmist wrote, I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore. And then from the New Testament, in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, in verses 25 through 32. And we read there, Now, there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simeon. This man was righteous and devout, looking forward to the consolation of Israel, and the Holy Spirit rested on him. It had been revealed to him by the Holy Spirit that he would not see death before he had seen the Lord's Messiah. Guided by the Spirit, Simeon came into the temple, and when the parents brought in the child Jesus to do for him what was customary under the law, Simeon took him in his arms and praised God, saying, Master, let your servant depart in peace according to your word. For mine eyes have seen the glory of your salvation, which you have prepared in the presence of all peoples, a light for revelation to the Gentiles and for glory to your people Israel. I know that God adds his blessing to the reading of his word.
Ron and Liz were very important to Fraisier. Liz is going to share some of the reflections that they come with from his time at Lakeview.
I wanted to, first of all, extend my sympathy to Lois and all the family who have gathered here this afternoon. It's always a privilege for myself and Ron as pastoral chaplains at Lakeview Manor to be able to get to know the residents a little bit. Probably a little bit more maybe than even the staff, because we spend quite a bit of time with them. And we just put a few thoughts down about things that we learned about Fraisier while he was there. He was a very pleasant man. He loved chatting and charming folks. He was quite a charmer. We always enjoyed our visits with him. He loved to discuss spiritual issues, or really, for that matter, any issue. Political, economic, social, whatever. He did enjoy talking about raising his girls, and he loved to talk about that. He talked about hunting partridge and deer, but you girls came first before that. And he liked to talk about recent events that were happening in the world. And he talked a lot about the old days at the CNR and how much he enjoyed them. He loved to talk about his dad. He would always mention his dad. He told us he was never afraid to speak up, and our staff found that to be very true. You never had to wonder what Fraisier was thinking, because he always felt free to share whether you asked him or not. When we first met him, we always have an introductory meeting with new residents who come, and when we first met him, he told us that he had to give up his car. And he found that very, very difficult. He said, for losing his independence. But then after a while, he said he felt more comfortable about it and realized that he had made the right decision. He was always open to prayer. We always liked to have a little prayer with him before we left him. And as all of us know, most of you probably know, he was quite the musician. Pastor Ron had the privilege of hearing him play the fiddle and the accordion, not at the same time, but at different times. And he was very good at it. The odd time, he would come and play with the afternoon entertainment. And although he loved to play, it was quite a little job for us to get him down to the chapel. But once he got there and played with the musicians, he was very, very pleased to be here. He enjoyed reading stories about Newfoundland, but he also loved to read the Bible, as well as biographies about Winston Churchill and Martin Luther. Fraisier was a really smart man, and he was very, very well read, and we've heard that today. One day, he spent the whole time with Pastor Ron talking about lobster. How much he loved lobster. He could never get enough lobster, and if he could eat lobster every meal, he would. But he said that Lois wasn't so keen about it, but he certainly loved it. Well, we enjoyed all the moments that we had with Fraisier. We have so many memories, and we're going to continue to walk alongside Lois and be a friend to her and encourage her in the days ahead. And we're really going to miss the times that we did have with Fraisier. And I just pray God bless each one of you.
Thank you so much, Liz. Yes, he had a deep sense of faith. Last night, I happened to bump into Ivan and Vivian Hicks, and they were talking about coming up here, how difficult it was to say goodbye. But Sylvia's going to come up and share a few of her thoughts from the Sussex Avenue Fiddlers.
Thank you, Steve. And family, I'm going to read a letter from Ivan and Vivian first, that we regret not being present today due to a previous commitment. Music brought Fraisier into our lives around 1989. As a member of the Sussex Avenue Fiddlers, he enriched the lives of everyone around him by his philosophy of life, his dedication to his music, and his unwavering encouragement to the youth to play the fiddle. Fraisier was a main reason why a number of young people became members of Sussex Avenue Fiddlers. Most of these youngsters who are now adults continue to play and enjoy the fiddle. Some have even gone on to make it a career. We have many special memories of Fraisier, his interesting ways of making comments and suggestions. Wallace and Fraisier's rhubarb punch that always appeared at our special events, his garden product and rhubarb that were left for our fiddlers and friends to pick up, and perhaps most important of all, his dedication to his family and his extended musical family. We will miss Fraisier's presence among us, but precious memories will continue to be with us. Sincerely, Ivan and Vivian Hicks, and the Sussex Avenue Fiddlers. Now, Susan asked me maybe to say a few words about my family connection with Wallace and Fraisier and the next generation. So I've had a connection with the Hale family as long as I can remember. Back in the 1940s, Wallace's mother, Helen, came to work in Long Reach to look after a family in Long Reach, and Wallace was along with her. She was a young girl, and she even went to school there for a while. And her mother's name was Helen. So she made friends with my mother, whose name was Helen, and they became lifelong friends for years and years. And so when they moved back to Sussex, they remained friends, and Lois became a nurse, and then she married Fraisier. So when Fraisier met my father, Joe Smith, they hit it off immediately. As Fraisier was an accomplished pianist by note and by ear, and my dad was a fiddler, so they enjoyed many happy musical jams together. He also liked picking apples and helping Dad around the farm. And my brother, whose name is Fraisier, has many fond memories of their visits. Fraisier was very encouraging, your Fraisier, was very encouraging to me when I started playing the fiddle, and he would often say, "Joe would be proud." That was my dad. So when Archie and I, my previous husband, moved to Moncton, we used to visit Wallace and Fraisier and the girls quite often. And eventually, their girls would babysit my two girls. And then after a while, my girls babysat their boys. You remember Barney? Babysat you and Sam. So what goes around comes around, I guess. So that's 4 generations I counted up of friendship between our two families. Then we had several years of square and round dancing, didn't we, Lois? I think there's a couple here that danced with us. Joan. So now, Fraser and I started fiddling at the same time, 30 years ago, with Ivan and Vivian. And Fraser was a wealth of knowledge and information as far as songs and fiddle tunes. If you needed any words or music, he would have them. And he put a lot of our fiddle tunes into a tablature form, which was numbers and letters to replace the notes, which people that couldn't read music. And he always had his little initials, SFH, down in the bottom right-hand corner with the date on it. So we're going to miss Fraser's wit and sense of humor, but his memories will live on in our hearts. So we're very proud to have known Fraser and all the Hale family. So, thank you.
Celebrated her 40th birthday the other day. Today we do need to gather. Yes, to hear music and to hear stories. We need to gather, more importantly, to support each other. And to try to gain some wisdom. The story that Ron shared with us is a story about an old man named Simeon who was standing outside the temple in Jerusalem waiting because he'd received a prophecy that the Messiah would come and that he'd meet the Messiah before he let go. One day, as Mary and Joseph, just after the birth of Jesus, had left Bethlehem and they were walking a short distance, 5 or 6 miles back to Jerusalem. An easier walk because it's downhill. Simeon finally saw the two of them coming. He took the child in his arms and he gave thanks and he said, "Lord, now let your servant depart in peace according to your word. For mine eyes have seen your salvation, a light for your glory, for all of the people of Israel." Simeon was ready to let go. He'd seen the light. Fraser, too, was ready to let go, for he had seen the light. But he was also a light to many. As for us, we're rarely, if ever, ready to let go of somebody who we love dearly. And we come with a mix of emotions, a deep sense of love and connection, but sometimes also lingering things. We wish we had said, we wish we had done, we wish. But as the book of Ecclesiastes tells us, there's a time for every season. And now it's time to let go of those regrets. Not just about Fraser, but about any regrets that we may have around the faithful departed. The reality is that things happen. Not always the way that we want them to, or when we want them to. And not because it's better that way, but because that is the reality of life. And so today is a good day to let go. To let go of any guilt that we may have, to let go of any ill feelings that we may have, to let go of all of those things. Today is a much better day to hold on. To hold on to all of those things that we saw in Fraisier that were good and kind and faithful. All of the things that made Fraisier special and unique. There were a few, weren't there? But you see, I'm a little confused by some of the things that Barbara and Liz especially had to say. Barbara talked about him being stubborn. I never witnessed that in Fraisier, not once. And as far as I know, he was never hard-headed about anything either. It's good to hear you laugh, just as you did when the others shared those memories. Because it shares a common knowledge of somebody who we knew and who we cared for, a beloved child of God. Now, there are two things about Fraisier I want to lift up this afternoon. One was exemplary in terms of so much of what's been said already, and I don't need to go on at length. Fraisier loved people. He really did. As it's been noted, he would talk to anybody about anything for any length of time that was ever allowed. And not only would he talk to people, but he would show up. He would show up if there was music, but I understand he would show up more significantly if there was music and food. But with the music, I don't think it was always about being the center of attention. It was about being part of a community, part of a group. That says something about a sense of faith. That we are not individuals, but that we are to be a community of people together. He did love nature. He did love to garden. He loved to hunt. He loved to fish. You can see evidence of that up here. But oftentimes those stories are not about going out on his own to hunt or fish, are they? They're about going out with others. Some of you who were here, I know. One of the other companions that oftentimes went on those journeys was Chica. Is that right? The right name? Yeah, Chica would get drugged through the woods out to the fishing holes. And it was especially wonderful when Chica would go salmon fishing with Fraisier and some of his friends, because after they had cast 3 or 4 times, Chica would immediately dive into the water and start swimming around, which was something that the salmon really appreciated, I suspect, without knowing. But then at night, I'm a dog lover. Anybody who knows me knows how much I love dogs. I love them a lot. But I would never allow a dog, a wet dog, into my bed with me, let alone a sleeping bag. But that was Fraisier. Somebody who loved and cared. But the people who he loved the most were those who were right in front of him. His family. Lois, of course. And his $3 million daughters. I don't know if that's the price tag that they paid for each of you. But I know that's how he thought of each of you. And it wasn't just you, it was the others who were gathered around you too. The children and the extended family. He thought the world and loved dearly. But I also knew Fraisier to be a man of faith. Now, Liz and Ron, I don't know if he ever did this to you. He would occasionally quiz me. I don't think it was to really find out what it was I thought about something. It was either to get into an argument with me or to try to trip me out. But he was a man of faith. His faith served him well. It carried him. It carried him from the beginning of his life through to the end of his life and beyond. And so today we give thanks. We give thanks to God for Fraisier, and for a life well lived, for love. The Bible tells us that God is love. Love that was shared with family, with friends, with community, and even with dogs. So we give thanks for Fraisier, and for all that was good and kind and faithful in him, and for all that he continues to be in the hearts and souls of each of you. And we give thanks that he is now joined with the communion of saints, gathered around a feast. I'm not sure if there are fiddles or accordions that are playing. But we give thanks.